Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the wild, weird, and wacky world of the Word. Those strange oddities that we find, and maybe it's about a difficult passage to try to understand, or just little bits and pieces of info that are kind of cool to go and show off your incredible knowledge of the Bible. But don't do that. Don't do that. That's not nice. Hey, what we're going to talk about today is something we ran across when we're looking at 1 Samuel chapter 2, the Song of Hannah. And you might recall Hannah was a woman who was unable to get pregnant. And she one day went to the temple to pray, and Eli the priest walks in and sees that she's there and notices that she's acting kind of weird and thinks she's drunk. She wasn't drunk. She said, I'm just despondent. So he blesses her, sends her on her way. She goes home, has a great dinner with her hubby, and they have a nice time that evening, if you know what I mean. And guess what? She gets pregnant. And in 1 Samuel, we have recorded for us this wonderful song that she breaks out into. Only it's kind of weird because there's only like 2 lines in it that talk about how those who are barren now have many children. The rest of it's all about how the mighty are brought down and the low are raised up, and all God's enemies are going to be crushed, this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, hold on, time out. Why is this song, or you want to call it a psalm, you could call it that, and we'll see that in just a minute. Why is that included here by a woman who's basically just celebrating her pregnancy? Why all this other stuff? Well, if you take a good close look at it, it's a song, a psalm of thanksgiving to God for what he's about to do for the nation of Israel. And what he's about to do is put in this woman's arms a little baby who's going to be called, as the book of the Bible calls it, Samuel. Yes, Samuel, who's kind of the transition between this group of tribal people who are kind of spread out all over Israel. They're going to come together as a united front in a kingdom. Samuel will be the priest/prophet who anoints David as king. So that's the importance of the song, because why else would a woman who's celebrating her pregnancy talk about bringing the mighty down low and lifting up those who are in the dust and all this, that, and the other? Just kind of interesting and strange why that would be. It's because this event has strategic national importance for the people of Israel. All right, well, but what's interesting about it is that this appears to have been something that was in addition to the book of Samuel much later. And we find that through a whole host of different songs, or if you want to call them psalms as well, because they're poems, so to speak, that have been inserted in different portions of Scripture. How do we figure that or know that? Well, it goes back to an ancient Greek writing, copy of Scripture that includes all of these various songs in a part of the Bible called the Odes. Odes, the Odes. And there are, depending on how you count it, because one of them could be counted a couple different ways, there's either 14 or 15, and they're attached to the book of Psalms. It's found in a 5th century edition, Greek edition of the Bible, which is the oldest Greek edition that we have, that includes practically all the Old Testament and the New Testament, as well as some of the books of the Apocrypha in it. But the odes of the Bible, they're attached to the end of the Psalms. some of the things that you have in there are the first ode of Moses and the second ode of Moses, and those are celebrating the victory that the people had. Well, actually, it's God's victory over the Egyptians. Then you have the prayer of Hannah, which is what we have before us this week, the prayer of Habakkuk, the prayer of Isaiah, prayer of Jonah, prayer of Azariah, which is something we looked at last week, actually. It's also found in the Apocrypha, the additions to the book of Daniel. And it goes on, and one real interesting one is the prayer of Manasseh, which is also a separate apocryphal book as well. And that prayer, Manasseh was the last king of Judah before they were all carried off into captivity, and he was kind of a bad guy. He was a bad dude. This prayer of Manasseh is lengthy, and it's one begging God for forgiveness, and God, I was awful and I was horrible. Please don't keep this against me, and let your face shine upon me again, and all this, that, and the other. And guess what? It works. It works. Manasseh is allowed to become king when the people are let go out of captivity. Just kind of strange and weird, and okay, whatever you might want to say. We don't have that in our Protestant Bibles, but it is, all these odes and other apocryphal books are important parts of the Eastern portion of our Christian faith, Eastern Orthodoxy. And in fact, they're very important in their worship services as well. So just thought it'd be a good time to introduce you to those different things in case you didn't know about it. The odes, the O-D-E-S, and they're kind of fascinating reading, although you probably have read all of them yourself as you've been going through the Old Testament, because so many of them are already included and embedded right in the scriptures that we have. But just know this, in the Greek, ancient Greek versions, they're in a separate part, stuck at the end of the Psalms. Well, enjoy your time reading the odes, and as I did promise to give you an easy way to find them. Well, there isn't any. You just have to kind of look them up, unless you have a good Greek version of the the Bible, that is, the Old and the New Testament, because in that way they're all stuck there at the end of the Psalms. God's blessings be with you, and have an awesome day.